All right. Hello, replayers. If you're a replayer, tap, tap, tap on the screen for hearts. And if you're joining me live, welcome. Welcome to my daily Money Habits broadcast. My name is joannazarach. I broadcast about developing better money habits for everybody because if you look out and look after your money, it will look out after you. So today, so on Wednesdays, on Tuesdays, I introduce a topic and we talk about it. And on Wednesdays, I talk about some of the practical application and get a little bit more in depth about why it's important and why is it that you need to do the exercise and figure out what it is for you. So it's tax season. So I am trying to drive the message home about the tax, about how important it is for you to understand your tax rates. How much are you taxed? This is U.S. specific. Again, this is what I'm familiar with. So if you're in another country, you probably can take the concepts away. Some of the specifics are obviously only for people in the U.S. So one of the things that I want people to take into account is to really understand all the sources of taxation for their income. So the majority of people are still employees or W-2 recipients, which means that you are subject to certain taxes and it's fairly defined. So you may feel like you don't have a lot of control over your taxes, but you do, because your employer most likely is offering some tax benefits that you may or may not be taking advantage of. The reason I talk about the impact of taxation is because it's so important for you to take advantage of your tax benefits that your employer offers. Now, if you are not an employee, if you are a business owner or a contractor, right, 1099, Schedule C, if those things are familiar to you, it is, let's say, 10 times as important for you to understand the impact of taxations. Because you are actually bearing a bigger burden of tax because you don't have the employer doing two things. You don't have your employer paying your share of payroll taxes, and you don't have your employer, you don't have your employer setting up your programs for you. So you're just out in the cold. You're like left out in the cold. So again, if you're an employee, it's super important for you to know these. If you are you're self-employed, then I'm it's funny. I know Cyrillic, but and so people are having conversation in Russian on my Periscope, and it's kind of funny. But anyway, so what I want to talk about today is the difference between a W-2 tax rate and a self-employed tax rate. So the employee tax rate, and I think everyone needs to do your tax table. So here is what the 4 components for a W-2 that are typical, right? You're going to have your payroll tax, and the payroll tax is the same for every single person. It's 6.2%, and you are you are subject to it, and this is really distracting, sorry. And so you are, everybody has a payroll tax for that they're paying $1. So 6.2% is your employee payroll tax rate, and you're going to see this on your pay stub. The best thing you can do is take your pay stub and really study it, see where your money's going, right? So that's your FICA. Sometimes it's called FICA tax. Sometimes they're combined, but that's Social Security or FICA tax. Medicare tax is 1.45%. Then your federal tax. One of the things that everyone needs to figure out is what is their own marginal tax rate. So there are tax brackets, and they are 15%, 25%, 28%, 33%, 35, and 39.6. You should know which is your individual tax bracket. So I posted this like little tax bracket, like a quick look up on my Instagram. not very active on it. I'm trying to create more content for Instagram, but figure it out. And if you it's a range, right? So if you're a single filer and you're earning more than $37,000 a year, you're in the 25% tax bracket at the minimum. Then at 91,000 for a single filer, you're going to be at 28%. So add up all that up, and then add your state tax. So for Illinois, so I'll use an example. So for someone who's in the 30, let's say you're making $50,000 and you're single, you're going to be in the 25% tax bracket. And if you're in Illinois, you're going to have a 5% state tax. So if you add up all your taxes, that your total tax burden is 37.65%, right? So let's say roughly 38%. Why does this matter? It matters because if you want to have $100 to spend, you need to earn $160 to cover your taxes. If you're a self-employed person, you are bearing a higher tax burden because your payroll tax is 12.4% and your Medicare tax is 2.9%. So if you wanted to get $100 in your pocket, you'd have to earn $183. So this is why it's so important for you to, first of all, know your tax rate, because you're going to realize how much money you have to earn to spend. And the more you earn, the higher your tax burden. So if you're cruising, you're mid-career and you're making six figures, you're all of a sudden not in a 25% tax bracket, you're in the 33% tax bracket. So remember, you had to earn $160 to keep 100 in 25%. If I change it to 33%, all of a sudden you have to earn $184 to keep $100. And that's why, first of all, you have to know your tax burden, so your marginal tax rate and all your other taxes, just to know how much you're going to earn. And by the way, if you're self-employed and you're making six figures, to make that $100 you're going to keep, you're going to have to make $214 gross. So that's more than double. And I think that's why, if you're not paying attention to taxes and you don't have a tax strategy, no matter what your income is, you're leaving money on the table. So that's super duper important. And again, I said it's 10 times more important if you're 1099 or Schedule C. Why? Because there are many programs available to try to lessen your tax burden. 401k, right? Retirement plans, and we talked about retirement plans. Actually, if you're following me, I think my retirement plan, Money Matters, is still in replay from yesterday afternoon. And we talked about retirement plans, IRAs, 401ks, etc., and how important they are. And the reason I want you to do your tax rates is because I want you to be like eyes wide open, and I want your decisions to become no-brainers, where you're like, well, can I afford to contribute to my 401k? Should I do my flexible spending account? Should I sign up for it? The answer should be a resounding yes, absolutely. If you're self-employed and you don't have access to that, you need to get an individual 401k. You need to start protecting your money, your earned income, from taxes in ways that are available to you, right? I'm not saying don't make stuff up, and I'm saying look in the tax code, look at what's available to you, because the tax rate, once you calculate it, should really open your eyes to how much more money you have to earn to keep that $100, right? So again, it's a little calculator. I'm going to flip it. I'm going to try something where I usually don't. I have a hard time using props, but I'm going to try it. I'll demonstrate this to you guys. Okay, I made up this little calculator. See if I can keep it steady enough. Okay, see if I can keep it like this. All right, so I made up this little calculator, and basically, this is the thing that's going to change. My state is Illinois, but if you're in a different state, you might have, 8% tax rate, and you may have 25% marginal tax rate. And you can see that to make $100, you have to make $168 to keep $100, and $183 if you're a if you're a 1099 employee. Now, if you're making more money, and again, you do 33%, all of a sudden you see that in a state tax, and that's not Illinois, but if you have a high state tax, you are going to have to make a lot more money to keep that money. So like I said, I made this little calculator, and I got to figure out how to I'll probably make an Instagram out of this just for a bunch of examples, but I got to figure out, I got to figure out how to make that available to people so that people could plug in and say, like, what's my tax rate? Again, there's a bunch of variables, but again, like, if you're a person who like is outside of the norm, like then you just need to go and do your research because you're probably a high income bracket and you can either afford a coach or an advisor. If you haven't spent the money on like someone professional, then you need to take the time to learn it yourself because it's gonna have such a huge impact on you. So anyway, that's my Periscope for today. Know your tax rate burden. Do a little calculator, you know, if you don't have Excel because you're not using it, use a Google Docs, Excel, make the little calculation and figure out how much money you have to earn to keep $100, because what you really need is motivation to take advantage of tax advantaged accounts, whether it's an FSA, you know, flexible spending account, whether it's your transit, you know, if you do parking, like a lot of employers offer different things. If you're a business owner, how important it is to track all your business expenses to deduct against your profits that you're making, and also to understand what are the things that are available to you as self-employed, because you can open an IRA with no problem, and if you're a little more sophisticated, you can open a solo 401k. So that's it for today. So pay attention to your taxes, find out your own tax rate, make the calculation, know your tax burden, and make your decisions a little bit easier because you're going to understand the impact it has on the total money that you get to keep from your efforts. So thank you again for joining. If you're just joining or you're new to me, I do a daily Money Habits broadcast 7 days a week at 10 a.m. Central Time. And twice a week now, I'm going to be doing Money Matters in the afternoon. So if you can't join live, make sure you subscribe or you follow me so that you can watch it in a replay later on. And you can just learn little tidbits and get encouragement all from Money Habits or the more in-depth material on Money Matters as we talk about, you know, ways in which you can get to keep more of the money you earn. You work hard for it. I want you guys to keep more of it and build on your path to financial freedom. So thanks a lot for joining, and I will see you guys